So, tonight's webinar will be aimed to empower you with some thoughts and tips and tricks, or just mainly thoughts and experiences that I've drawn from over the past 15 odd years. And I'm going to go into some detail. What I'm going to do is, there's just sitting down and coming up and piling up some of this information. It just made me realize that there's something big here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this webinar up probably into 3 parts, and really break it down and go into detail about how to take your photography to the next level. And I'm going to talk through right through from the beginning stages. This won't be aimed. It's definitely not aimed at beginners. It's going to be something for everyone in this, I think. And part of what I'm going to talk about is that you never stop learning. So if you consider yourself a professional, and to the point that you don't need to hear or get new information, I think you need to reconsider your approach or your mindset, because you never end up knowing it all. There's always something to learn. There's always a new technique to try, or a new function to come to grips with. So there's going to be more coming from this. Alyssa, thank you for joining in. It's definitely going to be more coming out of this in the next few weeks. And I will take this concept and expand on it and really go into detail and unpack the different subjects for you guys. All right, so I think it is a couple of minutes past. We can just about get started, and I'll start sharing with you. So my thing with this is, I travel a lot, and I have a lot of people on safari all the time. I host people. We go all over the world together, and I think everyone travels with me or with some of the Wild Eye guys, obviously for the destination, sure. But at the end of the day, you can go to the destination on your own. You can pack up your bags and climb on a plane, book it yourself, and go there. That's not why you're going for this specific task. You want to go to learn. You want to go to perhaps get access to an area maybe you couldn't have, but probably you could. But it's to be in the company of somebody who's experienced and who can take your photography to the next level, who can improve your images in the field, so that you can walk home not only with better images, but a deeper understanding of your photographic skills. And also, I think, a deeper appreciation of nature. I'm a firm believer in, yes, we're going to go there to get the shots, 100%, but we also want to come home and we want to have connected with nature. For me, the biggest shame is if you go on these photographic safaris and all you do is you're stuck behind your viewfinder and you never really see with your eyes what was around you and what you got to experience. And that's something to remember, and something I'll touch on tonight as well. So that's what inspired this. It's just, how do you become a better photographer? And that's why I think I'll break this down into some more sessions soon, because there's so much to this. There's so much detail. Once I get onto something, I just talk and talk and talk, and I love to share and expand on that. And if I'm going too fast, then let me know. But we will go over a few concepts today. There'll be time. Jan, sorry, I just saw, I think I did mention Wisconsin. I'm just going through the countries here. So I'm going to unpack this. But if you have questions, drop them in the comments. I'll check in every now and again. And so do share your questions with me, and I will get to them. But for the most part, let's get into it. Let me share some thoughts with you. I'm just going to share the screen. Make sure that you can see the presentation. It's on right now. Just leave a comment if you don't mind, and just say, yes, we can see, all is good. And then we'll take it from there. Just let me know if you did see it. Tracy, yes, fantastic. All right. So let's get into this, guys. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a good one. All right. So a lot of the concepts here, you'll think like, well, duh, obviously I know that, Marlon. I know you need to understand your subject. But do you truly grasp that concept? And for me, starting out, like I said, I've been photographing for a long time. I grew up photographing wildlife with my dad, and I've been in the guiding industry for 15 years and photographing for all of it, building up experience and getting to know my gear, getting to know the animals, and traveling. And so I've been doing it for a long time. And for me, there's very little more important, and it starts, the foundational level is understanding your subject. Now, you can layer this in so many different ways, and there's a lot of different ways in which to do so. But if you break it down, It's to get to know them and share behavioral traits with the viewer. Ultimately, we're photographing animals and we're sharing it with somebody. It could be in a book, it could be on your website, it could be on Instagram or Facebook, it could be to family back home. But ultimately, you want to show something to someone that portrays a behavior. Now, a behavior doesn't mean a leopard running after an impala and killing it. A leopard sleeping in a tree is also a behavioral aspect of an animal. An animal walking down the road, scent marking, gives you opportunity for something unique. A leopard on a patrol, let's say a leopard walking down the road, it just rained, and his territorial boundaries need to be remarked. He's walking down the road. Now, how you portray that to the viewer, I know that this leopard, I can see a shrub up ahead. It's just the right shape. It's overhanging the road just well enough. If I happen to get up ahead of that leopard, there's a 99% chance that cat's going to scent mark that tree. He's going to walk up to it. He's going to rub his head against it. He's going to turn broadside, scent mark, and keep going towards me. I know that because I've seen it before. And so I'm able to then get up ahead of him and I'm able to get a better photograph. But not only because I know it, but I'm able to portray that behavior and that moment. Even sleeping, there's a way to do that. You know, a cat's fast asleep. So often we just miss it, but it gives us an opportunity sometimes to get a bit closer. Instead of photographing a lion, big, fast asleep, the whole cat in the frame, that's not so nice. So why not look at either pulling back completely, including the tree with a lion resting in the shade, or getting closer, maybe just a foot on the head on the foot, and cutting out the rest of it and just making the moment more intimate, which suits the scene. And that's what I'm talking about. It's understanding your subject, what it's going to do, because being able to predict their movements keeps you one step ahead. Now we know this. And to some extent, you also rely on us to do that for you when you come on these guided safaris. And hopefully we do that well enough for those who've traveled with me or with Wildeye. But in addition to that, it's so nice for you to know a little bit more about the animals that you shoot. Somebody photographing a model or a cricket team or a race car, you know what that animals or what that person or the car or the sportsman is going to do. I know that the goalposts are on the one side of the field, and that's where he's going to go score. So I can position myself in such a way that that perhaps I can get into that space where he's about to score, have him running towards me, and I can then photograph him head on. Does that make sense? So in so doing, I can then say, okay, cool. I'm going to shoot this guy coming straight at me. I know he's going to score to my left there, so I can maybe get that cross kick. Or the guy, the rugby player, I know number 14 is probably going to get the ball, run to the side and score in the corner and get that try. If he's kicking for goal, I know where the 100 Pollard's gonna kick because I know where the goalposts are. There's a lot of things in your favor, okay? With wildlife photography, not so much. And understand this. Yes, it's important, the guide, to relay that information to you. But the better you come to know animals, the more advantage you have as a wildlife photographer. We invest a huge amount in camera gear. We invest a huge amount in our travels. It's more than a hobby. And if you don't do this well, all you're going to do is you're going to feel frustrated. And it's so nice for you can do a short course on animal behavior. There's great books. One that comes to mind is by Dr. Richard Estes. In fact, I'll type it in here. And he does incredible books. I think you can get it on Amazon or one of these platforms. And he does incredible animal behavioral descriptions. And there's another book called The Safari Companion, which is another book by Estes. And it's widely available, even if you come on safari at airports in Johannesburg and a few different countries, you can actually get that book. And it will help you tremendously because it breaks it down for you. Start with a key species, start with lions, get to know lion and leopard better. And eventually you'll get onto, the white-bearded gnu, or maybe a duiker, or different species of zebra or subspecies. And eventually you get to know them well. But just in the beginning, get to know these animals better. I promise you, the difference in your photography will be immense. You will learn so much more, and you'll be able to stay ahead of the game. you'll soon begin to think like them. And that sounds very like, I don't know what the right word is, but you think like the animal. I can see what these lions want to do. I can see what that elephant is thinking because I've seen it so many times. I know they are predictable. Yes, you have to be careful and you're not always right. But for the most part, when I see a certain change in behavior or look or eye contact or posture, I already know what's coming. Now that's my job. And you won't necessarily get to that level of animal understanding, but at least you can get to some point where you feel more confident with the animals that you're shooting. If you go to him, I'm going to the Himalayas again in 2022, February. Come and join me to look for snow leopards. But if you go there and you didn't read a single thing about a snow leopard, like what a shame. So read up about them, read journals, read entries, watch videos, buy a book or two. By the time you get there, you'll know them better. You'll know that they like to scent mark on overhanging rocks and cliffs. You know the paths they take. You know the size of the territories in the different areas. You know the climate, the time of year when they're higher in the mountains, when they come down lower. See, all these things won't be foreign to you, and it just puts you in a better state and in an advantaged position. And this is important, guys. Your first leopard will be photographed to pieces. As you see more, you start to look for the aspects of the cat that makes it special. Over time, you'll not only see, but you'll be able to capture the essence of the cat. And that for me is important because I don't expect a beginner to come out and see their first leopard and be like, no, Marlon, I'm just going to pick the shots here. I'll be selective. I'm not going to photograph too much. I'll just take it easy. You know, it's not like that at all. You pick up that camera and it's, you just fire away. And I understand that. I don't even try and stop you. But over time, when you see your second or third leopard on the trip, you'll start to look for something different. No, you're not going to go as nuts every time the leopard yawns or when he just blinks his eyes. You'll think about it a bit more. You'll stop and hang on, I've got that shot. Let me look at the paws or the patterns or the white tip on the tail. Let me look for that. Let me put an extend on and get close in on the eyes. You start to dissect. You start to dissect the scene in front of you a lot better because you're more experienced with the animal. If you see an elephant, if you've been on safari many times, we've all seen elephants now. So you don't just pick up your camera and go crazy over an elephant. But when you do, perhaps you're looking at something different, textures, wide angle lenses, including the environment. So you're becoming more creative and that will happen naturally. You don't just shoot wildly, but understand for your first time, you probably will, but it's another way. As you get to know an animal better, you start to look at different parts of them. Makes sense? Everyone is still with me and enjoying. Can't open my phone, can't see the book titles. The book title is The Safari Companion. The Safari Companion by Dr. Richard Estes, E-S-T-E-S, Dr. Richard Estes. All right, let's get on to the next concept. Leave questions if you want. Let me know if you don't understand. Now, this sounds silly, patience and access. Surely, patience, access, it makes sense. But what does that truly mean? And the reality is that patience in wildlife photography is everything. I learned this from a very young age. Now, I'm not talking about the kind of patience where you're waiting for a bird to fly and you're like, oh, no, I can't, and I leave. Or I'm talking about truly giving the animal the benefit of the doubt. Now, I travel with many people every year, and everyone claims to be patient, but not many truly are. Give the animal the benefit of the doubt. Now, let's say there's a private lion sleeping. The amount of times I've sat with lions fast asleep, they are so fast asleep, and all of a sudden they can hear the hooves of zebra approaching, and the lions are up in a flash, and they make a kill. They go from 0 to 100 within seconds. Remember, they're asleep, but they're very attuned to their environment. I remember this one scene. I was still working as a guide at Singita in the Kruger National Park. I was with these lions. I spent about 2 hours with them in the morning, and they were just sleeping, fast asleep, okay? Then on the radio, I heard one of the other guys found a leopard very close to us. So I decided, you know what? It's a leopard. I've got to check this out. So I tell the guy, there was one guy, Gavin Lautenbach. Gavin Rotenbach. He was in the sighting with me. So I tell Gavin, listen here, buddy, please I'm just going to scoot around to this leopard. Just stay here, keep an eye on them, let me know if something happens. I go like 4 minutes away. As I get to where the leopard should be, the leopard disappears. The guys can't find it. I can't see it. As I turn around to go back to the lions, Gavin calls me and he says, buddy, these lions are on a zebra. Now they caught a zebra. They were literally standing on the zebra's back in beautiful, clean grass, the most unbelievable scene. And I missed the leopard and I also missed the lions killing a zebra right in front of the cars. And the moral of the story is that often you think, no, let me try this, or let me try this, or these lions are never going to wake up, or that bird's never going to fly. But the reality is it will. And when it does, even if it doesn't, you would have invested the time. It would have been a great experience. Take out your binoculars, study detail. And it's just rewarding if it does happen, because you invested the time, you invested the energy. And I did honestly learn that from a young age, to just stick it out. Give the animal the benefit of the doubt, wait it up, and just see what happens. Obviously, if there is something good, go for it. But again, I got into hot water in India this year. We were looking for the black panther with Shaz Jung, a friend of mine, and this panther was, man, he was seen the day before. We didn't see it. We just arrived that the previous afternoon. He was seen in the morning. That next afternoon we were out, and Shaz thought, man, this is a good position to find it. We're at a big junction like this. Now, if you know of Kabini and the Black Panther, there's another leopard called Scarface, who's very rare. You almost see him less than you do the panther. That's what Shaz said at the time. So he was found about 500 meters away from where we were waiting. No sign of the panther, just said a few alarm calls. Okay, so we were just hoping it might be him in the core of his territory. But now Scarface shows up in his territory, which Shaz was completely like bomb struck by. So he says, let's just quickly go have a look. What do you know? Let's go. Okay, we shoot 500 meters away. We get there. Guess what happens? Right behind us, a park official says, hey guys, the panther's on this junction. It's crossing the road. We leave Scarface. We shoot there, miss the panther, have a half a sighting with Scarface. Just a mess. That was on the first full day. We never saw that cat again. Never got a hint of him, the Black Panther. Had we stayed there, we would have had him. Okay. Now, it's not always the case, but it is important. Have patience, have a game plan, and stick to it. It's going to change your wildlife photography, and I have no doubt about that. Access to is everything. Now, it's a tough pill to swallow, but there's reason why some images and photographers stand out. David Yarrow, Shaz Jung, Nick Brandt, they all have access. I'm going to talk about this more. Let me just finish this. Budget is a big issue. Best you can save for those trips. Book with an operator that values you and your experience, and travel with a quality guide. There's still much to be done in your backyard, but thanks to social media now more than ever, access is key and what we are all after. Now, what I mean by this, and I'm sure it's fairly self-explanatory, is if you look at guys, take Shaz Jung for example. If you don't follow him, please do. He's a fantastic, fantastic photographer. Now, Shaz, when I talk about access, he has Kabini as his backyard. He grew up there. They own a camp there, and that's his place. I might go there for a week, which I did, and I completely missed the panther. I didn't get to see him. Yet Shaz has this amazing portfolio. I'm going to talk about comparing yourself to others, but I can't compare that experience with what Shaz has done over such a long time. In the same way that Shaz can't compare his African portfolio to mine, because it's a different degree. I have access to Africa. I have access to leopards in Africa. Shaz has access to the Black Panther. Look at Nick Yarrow David Yarrow as an example. David is a well-known photographer. He gets access based on his name and his reputation and what he does. He can go to a place like Amboseli and get photographs that we can't. He can go to Alaska and access areas that we can't. Okay, understand that. And that's the reality. Access is everything. Now, it's all relative. Perhaps access for you and I would be to be able to go on a safari to Mana Pools or the Serengeti. But if you didn't get that access, if you weren't able to go, and I understand there's budget restrictions and time and everything else, but if you didn't have that, you would be limited in your portfolio and what you can present. There's nothing wrong with your backyard. Too few people explore what's happening around them. And there's opportunity. There's no doubt about it. But unfortunately, access is invaluable. It just takes your work and elevates what you do, because if you get access to these areas, it could be a national park on a safari, or it could be to the extent where, yeah, you know, for example, I'm working with David Yarrow on a trip, probably 2022, 23. Shaz and I will do another couple of safaris together. And through them, you'll get even more special access to areas where other people have been but won't be able to go because I'm with David or because I'm with Shaz. Now that gives you that access to get the kind of photography done that you see these guys do. And access really is everything. And I hope that makes sense. It will take your photography to the next level. Even just joining these safaris, we go in a specific time of year, the best camp, the best possible chance of seeing something is on your side. That access gives you a portfolio. Now, the curse of this is social media. If I look at Instagram, everyone, every influencer, every travel blogger, every wildlife photographer shares their best portfolio. And the risk and the danger is looking at that, comparing where you are with what you're seeing online and thinking, I want that. And you end up going, but you don't get that. But they've been going there for 10 years. So they're sharing their best of. So don't feel despondent. That access can get you there, but it still doesn't mean you're going to get that portfolio, as we've all learned so very well. Elaine, Black Panther, I wish I had a wonderful job as you. I didn't get to see it, Elaine. That's the worst. We sat so close, and so I actually didn't get to see the Panther, believe it or not. All right, let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to go in a little bit deeper. This is an important one, and I know you guys do, because you're all on this webinar together with me here tonight, which already shows that you want to glean information from people who have walked a road ahead of you. And this is important for me, and it's formed a foundation for a lot of what I do. More than ever, the best photographers are freely sharing images on social media, something often reserved for themselves or competitions. Look at these images and learn from it. Drop the guy a DM. How did you do that? What were your settings? A lot of these guys are sharing information. Leave a comment, read the caption. I'm actually alarmed at how few people actually read the caption of the images that I post. But learn from photographers that have walked the road. The people I looked up to have changed. When I first started out, I had a set of, especially South African photographers, that I really admired and that I really looked up to. And that's changed. It's elevated. You know, now the guys that really inspire me locally would be somebody like Hannes Lochner, amazing photographer, David Yarrow, Shaz Jung, a friend of mine, but he's walked the road. He does a fantastic job of what he does. There's a host of guys that are coming up that just does photography incredibly well. I look at that, and although sometimes I feel like I want to give up because I'm not sure if I can be that good, on the other side, I'm also inspired to do better, to try harder. I'm busy taking a Photoshop course on LinkedIn Learning to get to grips with that even better than what I currently know. And it's important to keep learning, to be inspired by others, and to take your photographic experience and work to the next level. Study their content, their styles and technique, soak it in, learn from it. I'm not saying shoot exactly like them, but if I take a little bit from this one, a little bit from that one, and I make it my own, that's where the magic happens. That's where the change and the transformation comes in. There's nothing wrong, listen to me, with looking at photographers' work and taking a bit of that. Try the technique. Try to edit like them. Get into that position. Get into that location. It's very good. Draw from that inspiration and really make it your own. There's more blogs and online tuition and webinars than ever before. Guys, lockdown's been, this one thing that came of it, it's content. You can find just about anything out there. And the fact that you've taken your evening or midday or whatever the time is we are to come and listen to me speak is such a privilege. And I'm so blessed by that. Thank you. But it's all out there at the moment. And it's fantastic to know because there's more learning material and opportunity to grow than ever before. It's right there at your fingertips. Whether you pay for it, whether you get it for free, there's access to content right now like there's never been before. Look up to those people, learn from them, and make it your own. Join the people you admire on safaris, spend time with them. I might know someone who can help you with safaris. His name is Marlon du Toit. He goes everywhere. Come and join him. I'm being serious. No, but seriously, it's an opportunity to join people in the field. So many people nowadays are going to host, events and and ambassadors will be hosting events. If you can get to photographic shows, go out there and meet these people. It's a great opportunity to do. And this all helped me tremendously on my way and my experience. Just going to check if there's any comments, guys. If please, at any point, leave a message, leave a comment, and I'm happy to get back to you. Listen, Marlon, I feel being with top guys doesn't take your photography from good to great, but being on your own in the bush does the magic. Being with it, good to great. Well, see, Alyssa, it depends. I don't know who you've traveled with. Leave me a comment here with who you've traveled with. I'll get back to you now, and then we'll see where that goes. Compare and despair. Yes. Okay. Yes. It depends on the mindset. There's a comparison with looking at where they are and feeling motivated to get to that point. But if you compare yourself and you look at where you are, we're going to talk about the journey soon. There, you're going to fall short. Valerie, years ago, I bought my first Sony Alpha camera. Years later, I had to upgrade. Very difficult decision. Everyone seemed to love Canon, so I switched. I'm noticing you have many classes on the Sony Alpha camera. Do you prefer that line? And if so, why? So guys, just very quick on the Sony Canon debate. I won't go into one is better than the other. I've shot Canon my whole life. I'm both looking for the best camera system, and I'm also looking for an opportunity to grow into a brand. Canon, there's no future for me. They're too well established. It'll take me a very long time to climb that ladder, where Sony presented an amazing opportunity for me to grow into that brand and to be known as one of their top wildlife photographers. And as to the performance of it, both are fantastic, okay? Both do very well. I do feel that Sony has the edge in mirrorless technology because a number of reasons. You can email me, I'll give them to you. But the only competitor to Sony at the moment is Canon. And I think it's very much a Sony Canon race, if you want to call it a race. The technology is fantastic at the moment. It's changed the game. Mirrorless is the way to go. But again, I won't say that one is better than the other. I believe in Sony, which is why I've invested in it. You know, by going from Canon, who I had a very good relationship with, to Sony, I ultimately ended my relationship with Canon. It's tough to go back to that. And I've taken on the relationship with Sony. So it was a big decision, but it's one I truly believed in. David, just interested, do you know how many people are watching? David, we have 45 people watching. Denise, why don't more of the better photographers share settings? That would be a good tool for others helping. So sharing settings is good, but it's not always relevant. It's difficult to look at a cloudy scene and say, all right, my settings were this, because you can't always apply that to your cloudy scene when you're next on Safari. So I'll share settings if it's relevant, like at a very high ISO or a creative image, you know, like a Milky Way or something like that. But for the most part, I don't share it because I don't want you to have my settings. I'll tell you how I got the shot, especially if you ask. But for the most part, it's not going to help you that much in your specific environment, because every scene, I can shoot one cloudy scene at ISO 800, but the next cloudy scene a little bit darker at ISO 6400. So it just depends on what situation you're facing. And Alyssa, you know, to some extent, yes. I think if you go with the wrong photographic guides, the guides won't invest time in you. And this is important because you need to choose an operator well. You need to choose your guide well, because very, very likely most guides are out there for themselves. Even some of the best names in the business shoot for themselves. When there's a key sighting, then those guys will be behind their camera and they won't be sharing with you. I know of many guides who get back home at camp, bring up a photograph and share the settings they took or used to get that photograph, the photographic guide. What it does is it means nothing to you after the fact. You want to know right then and there how to get the shot, right? But some guides don't always share as freely. And for the guys who have traveled with Wildeye, hopefully we do it better than that. I know I certainly endeavor to do that, and I get better and better as we go. But choose the guides widely. If you feel like you can be a better photographer on your own as opposed to traveling with a photographic guide, that photographic guide, I don't care who he is, even if it was me, then you know I would need to look at myself and be better, because my role as a photographic guide is to inspire you and to instill skills into your game, your photographic experience that makes you better and that gives you better results. Point. Okay. Not there for my photographs. I'm not there for my enjoyment. It's about you, and you need to walk away from there feeling like you've learned, like you've taken your game and your skill level up a notch or two. So yes, I can see how that point rings true, but I do think that if you travel with the right guides, that will not be the case. Let me know what you think. I'm going to go to the next one, then I'll come back to the comments again. All right. The next one is very, very simple. Vision for the image. Now, this is something that too many people, including professionals, don't pay enough attention to, is the vision for the image. Before you press the shutter, think about what you're shooting. Both amateurs and professionals alike will get into a scene and just fire away. The first thing they reach for as the standard is the telephoto lens, not even thinking about the fact that that lens might not be the right lens for the task at hand. Okay, have a vision for the scene, have a vision for the image. If I look at a scene, the first thing even before the vehicle stops, I've looked at the scene, I've looked at which direction will work best, I've looked at where the animal might move to next, because maybe where we are now is not as good as where the animal is going to be in 2 minutes time from now. So I'm constantly looking in front of me, looking at the subject, looking at what's around and thinking, what is the best outcome? I go for gold, okay? If there's an opportunity at hand that will give me an image to remember, that's what I will set up for and leave the mundane behind. If it's just another headshot, another portrait, that's great. But that leopard might go up this tree up ahead, or the cheetah might scale the termite mound. So let's go there because it's on its way there. My intuition, my experience tells me so. So have a vision for the image, but not only in how you capture it, but what it's going to look like at the end. If it were film, you would have thought about it, okay? Technology allows us to shoot away and snap thousands of potentially useless images. I say that with respect. But if it were film, if you had 24 photographs in that roll of film, and you with this leopard, and you know, if I waste this, or if I'm left with 8 images or 4 images, a leopard does something amazing, I'm going to be in trouble. I need to either grab another camera, change settings, or change film. And yes, technology has advanced so much so that we don't have to think about that because I can file off 2.5 or 5,000 photos per memory card. The reality is, make it challenging for you. Think about it. Think about, don't just mindlessly fire away. I had a guest in the Pantanal last year. He walked away with 40,000 photographs in 9 days. It's absurd, okay? It's completely pointless. You shouldn't be doing that. So think about it. Think about, if am I going to delete this? Am I going to keep this? What can I do with it? Is this black and white worthy? Do I do a portrait? Do I reach from my 70 to 200? Look at that beautiful, the tree actually frames the elephant. So look at the scene and have a vision for it. This is extremely important. Depend on your guide to point that out, but at the same time, use your eyes. Just look around you. Don't immediately pick up the first camera on your lap. Just take a second and look at the scene. See the final product before you shoot and have purpose for the frame. I promise you this, guys, if there's one thing you remember from this is the most important thing for me. I look at it and I have purpose for it. I'll direct my guests accordingly, but in my head, I can see it. I know what it is that I want to do here, and I go for that because I can already see it in its final version. We all tend to overshoot. With experience, you'll learn to think about what it is that you're shooting. And this is important. When you're not shooting, pick up your binoculars, study the animal, look at the detail, look around you. It just gives you an opportunity to not be so stuck behind your viewfinder that you miss out on the experience as a whole. All right. So I'm going to check if there's a few more comments. Thank you so much. David Harper, Denise answered that. Joan, Brendan Jennings, Phyllis Stain, Lance on the Faith. I prefer telling with a photo guy. Fantastic. Joan, you have to add Marlon du Toit Wild Eye into that. Okay, we'll blow you away. Now, I know all those guys. I know I actually haven't met. I've met a couple of them, and we're all mates in the industry. But I promise you, come and travel with us. It'll change your life. Our slogan, our motto is to change the way you see the world. That's something we've already invested in a lot this year. Some changes coming soon, which you'll see, which everyone is excited about in Wild Eye, and I'm sure you will as well. But definitely come and give us a go. Tracy, is more of a challenge in North America as the animals generally aren't all that comfortable around humans and cars. Access often is limited to seconds, sometimes to get the shot, and you have to take what you can get. I understand it's challenging, Tracy, definitely. Not an ideal situation. Tim, spray and pray. Yeah. Alyssa, how about for me, nothing can beat the feeling of being on my own in the bush, as well as making my own mistakes, having my own photographic journey. We shared the wild dog sightings in Chitaki. It was great. But I love being on my own now in the Kalahari, and nothing beats the feeling for me. Time and vision can change your photography from good to great. That's true, Alyssa. I remember Chitaki, guys. For those who don't know, we shared an amazing wild dog sighting. Alyssa was with a guide called Greg du Toit, and that is an amazing scene and an amazing sighting. Absolutely. We traveled with wildlife. I felt really improved with the help of our guide. It was great. That's amazing. Well done. Joan, I attended a lecture you did for Canon a couple of years ago. Loved it. Look forward to going with wildlife soon. Amazing. Thank you, Joan. We would love it. Thanks also for attending. Hopefully, we'll be coming to the Sony ones in the near future. Thanks for those questions, guys. Now, the next one is our journeys are not the same. And I feel here we're slowly coming to an end, another 10 minutes or so, is that this is the mistake we often make as photographers. Now we've traveled, we've enjoyed access to different areas, we've gone on photographic safaris, we open an Instagram account, our journey's progressed, okay? Now we get to the point where we start looking at other photographers and we start comparing in a negative way. Now, I might look at, I remember, I bring up Shaz just because I spoke to him earlier, or about him earlier. And if I think of Shaz, I had more followers than him like a year and a half ago on Instagram. I did. I remember still sharing his page, encouraging people to go and like his work because it really inspired me. I was like, look at this guy, amazing work. And now he's got 1 million followers. He's got 6 times more than what I do. He's just got, his account is blown up. Am I looking at that and being like, man, my life sucks? Maybe a little bit. I'm kidding. I don't. But it's so easy to do that because why not me? Why am I not getting followers? Why am I not getting recognized in the same way that he does? Or maybe Paul Nicklin, Paul Nicklin has 7 million followers, but I'm not there yet. What is my goal? That's that I'm in the business of wildlife photography. I'm in the business of creating exposure for what I do in order to gain an audience, to gain value, to gain trust, to get people to travel with me, and more, which I'll mention. But the point is, I can't look at these guys and wish I was there because I'm heading there for sure. But at the same time, there's people looking at where I am and wishing they were there. So I'm in a good position, and you need to figure that out for you as well. What is your journey? My journey and your journey, we're not the same. It's different. But social media has brought this upon us where it's so easy to compare yourself with somebody else and just think like, I haven't made it. I'm not there yet. Even on safaris, I've seen one guest get the shot, the other in the same vehicle not get the shot. That's so easy to be despondent. But the best you can do is understand the route that you've taken, the journey that you're on, and to make the most of that and to believe that it's the right one. Carve it out a little bit because once that gets confused, all it does is it leaves you with frustration. It's the last thing you want, guys. I do not want you to come on to Africa, to Pantanal, to India, to Svalbard, go there and leave feeling like you didn't get the shot that Jerry did or Marlon did. You didn't quite nail it, and you leave feeling sad and despondent after having been in such an amazing location. And I've had that with guests many an occasion. And it's not the right thing to do. It's not the right attitude to have. You have to appreciate where you are. You have to make the most of it, but understand that your journey is unique. Why do you photograph? Why do you travel? Why do you invest in this journey? Why do you invest in the gear? These are questions you have to ask yourself. Maybe it's not that complicated. I love photography. I love travel. I love animals. I love photographing it. That's awesome. Plain and simple. Maybe you want to do a book because you want to raise funds for conservation. You might sponsor posts to get a bigger audience so that when you eventually do that, it gains traction and you do it easier. Maybe you're in my boat. If I look up to others who walk the road ahead but don't compare and feel despondent. I shoot for purpose. I have to take care of my business. I have to get people to join me. I have to please sponsors. I have to stay active, I have to grow my audience, and I have to inspire. These are all things that I need to do in my journey, and I clearly understand that. My content that I share, my photography game, my reason for doing it is very different to perhaps yours. But although this is not like you have to go dig deep into your life to understand why it is that you're photographing. It's not the holy grail question, but it is important. It is an important one because it helps your journey. It helps puts things into perspective. And these are my reasons. What is yours? Leave a comment there. I'd love to hear from you guys. Why is it? What is your why? Why do you photograph and do all these things that you do? And have you in the past felt like maybe you've compared yourself to people where you shouldn't have, and it leaves you feeling a bit frustrated or disappointed? What is it that you have to do and why? Enjoy the journey, invest time and emotion into it, but the clearer your goal, the more purposeful the journey becomes. And the last one I'm going to talk about is the social game. But before I do that, well, let me do that, then we'll look at some questions. So leave a question, answer the question that I asked you before. There's little doubt social media, especially Instagram, has changed the way we photograph. Now, you might think, how? Let me give an example. If I look at how the work I shared before Instagram, it would have been the photograph as I took it, landscape, vertical, but just kind of as I took it, put it on Facebook, share it, people enjoy that. Instagram has focused your attention on a little phone. So that's, if I go into Instagram here, that little screen that you see there, that is the entire size of the image, So I don't know if it's focusing, but that's the entire image size. So when I go through my feed, I can't see, you're looking at small images in this, and it's made us desensitized to images that are meant to be viewed bigger, like landscapes or animals and environments. So what I've seen even that I do is for impact, in order to get people to engage with the photograph or the post, is I crop in. You share portraits, you share baby animals interacting, you share intense action, you share a lot of things that get people engaged, maybe images that could go viral, but you're not sharing the wider, little bit like less impact heavy kind of content. And that's what Instagram's done. And it even affects the way you photograph, because often now you might get into a scene and you might reach for that telephoto lens to get closer, when in fact the better shot might be wider. But our thinking has changed because of this social game. Let me know if this is true for you, but I've seen it affect me in the beginning, and I've seen it affect other photographers as well. It changed what we like to see, what we like to photograph, and how we feel about our photographs. Because if I don't get 5,000 likes on my photo, then I feel like it's not good enough. When it's a perfectly decent photograph, perfect light, great posture, beautiful setting and scene, it just wasn't good enough for Instagram because it wouldn't go viral. That's not the way to look at it. You're going to always feel like you're selling yourself short. You're never going to feel like your work is good enough. Does that make sense? Leave me a comment. Let me know if that is something that you've experienced in the past. Instagram is meant as a platform to share experiences, content, and inspiration. Yet so often it leaves us feeling worthless and unsuccessful. More than ever, understand your why, as previously mentioned. If you understand why you're doing it, it's easier to not fall into that pitfall, into that trap. Use social media as a tool if need be, but be extremely careful of this potential trap. It can be devastating to your creativity, because all you find yourself doing is sharing just this one track, portrait, tight, nothing bigger, no story to it. You've just got to churn in the likes, you've got to churn in the engagement, and that's just not the way to go. I know not everyone is in that game. There might even be people on here that are not on Instagram, or they don't even post their work. But it is a pitfall that many people fall into, and it's not great, and it just has a bad ending. Just going to go through some of the comments. Don't leave, stay involved. There's still more coming. Valerie says, I have a friend that has gone on many wildlife trips. I feel like we've seen her become a professional. The shots are amazing. Keep telling her I'm waiting for the book. Brilliant. Tracy, thank you again for sharing your thoughts and experiences. You produced some of the most beautiful image of all the great names you mentioned, and it's very inspiring. It's really generous of you to do these sessions. We're so lucky. Tracy, that means like so much to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Barbara, my purpose is very simple. I see beauty in everything. Throughout my journey, I hope to share that beauty. Perfect. That's awesome. The great thing, and I will say this, is the better you become as a photographer, the more able you are to share that beauty. And so for me and my work, part of me is to inspire and to drive change. I've just shared a post on the Pantanal. Every year there's fires. This year it's a little bit worse. A lot of areas are hard hit, even the areas where I do safaris in. So I can now use my platform and my images to hopefully get people to contribute to the cause. Other times it might be a message about rhino conservation. But the better my photograph, technically, emotionally, any of those things, the better the photograph I can capture, the more effective that message is, the easier it is for people to engage with the post. Okay, so if I almost see it as my responsibility to become a better photographer, because I'll be a more effective voice for these animals when they need me. They cannot speak for themselves. We are all ambassadors, like it or not. We all have that responsibility to, share their story. The better photographer I am, the more capable I am of doing that. If that makes sense to you. Denise, for me, photography and travel of any type provides pleasure, giving me the opportunity to engage with others. I like the challenges and always want to improve. Beautiful. Don't change. Joan, I totally agree with your thoughts on the social game. Jan, true about Instagram photos. Some of my favorite would never be like there. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. What you see a lot of photographers do now, I don't know if you've noticed, is people like, for example, I think Paul Nicklin didn't start the trend, but definitely has taken it to the next level, is where they share multiple images. So for example, you'll get an image like this. I hope you can see that. Let's see if the camera focuses on there. So that'll be image number one. Come on. Oh, hang on. Sorry. I just want to show you just because it's relevant to what we're speaking about. So that's image number one, and that's the full image. So guys will share the full image, wouldn't have that much impact, but they break it up into two, just a simple trick in Photoshop or in an app. And that's another way of doing it. So people are now, they want to share the bigger impact images, the wider shots, but it doesn't have that much impact on Instagram. So now guys have even gone to the extent where they share it across frames, which just supports my message of those images don't traditionally do well. People like the tight stuff, and you can easily fall into that trap, and it's not great for your creativity. Tracy says, I still primarily want to see my images on display physically rather than on social. Absolutely. Like, I don't print enough photos, but I have to do that. It's so beautiful to do. Linda, I agree with the Instagram view, but what other way can you get your work out there? Linda, it's challenging. You know, Instagram has taken over so many of our lives. If you go look at this, The Social Dilemma, the series on Netflix, it totally speaks into this. It's unbelievable. It's scary at the same time. But yes, it's difficult. There's Facebook, but you know, traction is down on there. You can have your website, but how do you get people to your website? You can have YouTube, but it's not really a photographic platform. There's 500 pics, and like there's a whole bunch of things. But ultimately, Instagram is the way to go. But just be true to yourself. It's your mindset on Instagram. Don't be disappointed if you don't get the engagement that you want. And post, you know, for me, I post a balance. You'll see some of it will be tight. The bulk of it will be for impact, but I also post wider stuff. It doesn't get the same engagement. But from time to time, I'll pop in wider scenes. I'll pop in a wider video, longer video, shorter video. I try to mix it up, but I definitely have a percentage of high impact being more and the lower impact stuff being a bit less. Melissa, it's hard not to fall into the Instagram trap. It is hard. Great. So any other platform you'd recommend to try for someone who recently started wildlife photography? You know, the gram is where it's at the moment. Like I said, you could have your website there's I don't even know. I'm not on any of the other platforms. I just don't have the time. But if you guys have any suggestions, please type it out here. Tracy, you're very inspiring. Thanks so much, Marlon. Sunny Pot 1 and 2 workshops were so helpful, by the way. Thank you. There's a ton of content coming. Please keep an eye out. for that, guys. It's going to be amazing, and I'd love for you guys to sign up for the workshops that I'm going to be hosting in the next 2 months. Can you spell the names of your favorite photographers, please? I enjoy being in the bush and love the wildlife, even if I don't guess the best photos. So, Joan, some of my favorite right now, are you guys seeing the typing? I'm not sure if you do, but Hannes Lochner, Lochner, is definitely one of my firm favorites. Love, love, love his work. Shaz Jung, Shaaz, his last name is Jung. David Yarrow, Nick Brunt is incredibly inspiring. There's a few guys outside of the wildlife genre. I try to follow a few guys in different genres. Colby Brown is one of the Sony guys. Paul Nicklin is incredible, and I just try to follow a few people like that to to draw some inspiration from. Linda, the wilderness. I'm still going to finish, guys, so please don't go anywhere. The wilderness and wild is my happy place. Fantastic. Tim, while there are clear leaders in the field, your dedication, commitment, and participation set the bar, which should be, especially in East Africa, where few meet your high standards. Webinars are a case in point. Many thanks. That's the kindest words. Tim, thank you very much. Photographs will be there when I'm not longer available. True. Maureen, I love travel, especially getting into the bush and the animals and their behavior and meeting people. Can't wait to visit Kenya with you next November. Fantastic. Thank you. George Steinmetz is amazing. Beautiful. We'll check that out. Guys, I want to leave you with a couple of quotes here. And hopefully this makes sense. I love these quotes. These are some of my favorite photographic quotes. This is by Ansel Adams. You don't just make a photograph with a camera. You bring to the act of photography all the pictures you've seen, the books you've read, the music you've heard, and the people you have loved. And it's more than just a photograph. Your experience, who you are, eventually sees the world differently. I see the world very differently to you. I've seen it countless times. We can be in exactly the same sighting together, but people see it differently and capture it differently. There's no right or wrong. How you saw it, that's how you'll portray it. And it's inspired by who you are. And if you read this again, it just is beautiful and it rings true. And it's said by one of the greats in the photography realm. This I also love, David Yarrow. I photograph wildlife that we look up to, not down upon. And it will make sense if you follow his work. Go check him out on social, have a look at his website. He photographs from the bottom up, whether it be a camera trap or handheld, but he photographs low and looking up at the animal. It makes the animal seem bigger, more imposing, and more important. Okay, I love that statement. It's just something that I try to apply to my photography best as possible. And with this, if you look at a film, I don't know if you've watched The Revenant, the longer the telephoto, it is possible for the viewer to feel disconnect to the animal because it feels telephoto-like. It feels far away. The wider the lens and the closer the animal to my lens, look at the difference. So I mean, this is probably quite obvious, but if I sit back, I all of a sudden become very much a part of the scene in terms of ratio. But the moment I come forward towards the camera, look at the difference in my face. Now all of a sudden, you're seeing me, you're engaging with me, whereas here I'm far back. I come forward, I'm shooting on a 24-70, the aspect changes. Now, if you look at your work, if you photograph more with the wider scenes access, being able to do that, not get eaten, you engage with the viewer more often. And that film, The Revenant, was amazing. It won awards for the way it was filmed because it was filmed mostly on wide angle lenses. The viewer, the guy watching, was able to connect with the movie, with the characters. And you just felt a whole lot more involved in the scene from beginning to end. And that's important in photography. And that's why I love that statement from David Yarrow. And this is the last statement here is, if your pictures aren't good enough, you're not close enough. Robert Capa was one of the best considered the best war photographer of all time. And he reckons if it's not good enough, you ain't close enough. And that pretty much sums it up. And again, don't get eaten, but it's something to consider. Last comments, love chatting. Really like your webinars. I've been learning so much from your webinars. Look forward to part 2. Fantastic. It's coming, guys. For those who signed up, It's coming. It's a bit big. Just resizing it to send it to you guys. Must return to work. Thank you. Not Kitty. Thank you. Always inspiring. Thank you very much, guys. And that's it. So short and sweet. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to break this up into probably a 3-part series coming soon. Please sign up for that. It's going to be very in-depth, and I'll make it entertaining. I'll share some great photographs and examples along the way. But please sign up for that that series. I'll put it on my social. It'll be on the Wild Eye website and on the Wild Eye social as well. So I hope you guys enjoy that. Have a lovely evening wherever you are. If you have any additional questions, send me an email, marlon@wild-eye.co.za. Happy to answer them for you, and hope to see you on here again soon. Lots and lots of webinars coming your way in the next 2 months from moi. Thank you, guys. Much love. Have a lovely evening, and chat to you all soon. Bye-bye.